How's it going, everybody? Bryan Alvarez here on Wrestling Observer Live. We are here every day, Monday through Friday, noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, Sundays, 3 Pacific, 6 Eastern. I am back here on the show. I feel like I've been gone since before WrestleMania, which I kind of have. I guess I came back for a couple of shows and then left again, but 19 days into the month. I think this is the longest I've ever gone without doing Wrestling Observer Live. So hopefully today I remember how to do it. Luckily, there is a lot of stuff to talk about. If all else fails, I can go all the way back to WrestleMania, talk about things I haven't said here on this show. But as far as news here today, very interesting thing happening on Sunday. WWE Network is doing a live special, 9:30 Eastern, from Moline, Illinois. They are going to be airing Finn Bálor versus Elias for the Intercontinental title, and Baron Corbin and Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre versus The Shield in the final match in WWE, allegedly, and at this point it is the final match, of Dean Ambrose. It's very interesting because this guy's leaving. I mean, he could end up signing with AEW, he could end up going to New Japan, he could end up going to Ring of Honor, a million places that he could go, and they are doing all they can to give him a fond farewell, which seems very unlike WWE, but that's what they're doing. I don't know if this has anything to do with anything, but on Monday, they did a segment when the show went off the air with The Shield, and they called out Dean Ambrose, and what Dean Ambrose said was, you guys are making it very hard to retire. He didn't say you're making it very hard to leave. He said they're making it very hard to retire. I don't know if that means anything. I don't know if in his mind he's thinking of retiring. I think pretty much everybody is presuming that he's just going to be going to another promotion, but we'll see what happens. That's coming up this Sunday, 9:30 p.m. on the WWE Network. We got all the names for the Superstar Shakeup. Sure, Mike went over all of those. We got a couple of additions as well. We've got some notes on New Japan running Sydney. Bunch of Ring of Honor notes. Gorillas of Destiny and Briscoes have a match. Some ratings to talk about here. So much stuff. And, of course, we'll take your phone calls, emails, text messages, and more. Back in a moment to kick it off, Wrestling Observer Live. Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive is not here today. He'll be back on Monday, a much-deserved day off here. If you want to give me a call today, 844-411-5411 is the phone number. That is toll-free, 844-411-5411. Text messages, 425-780-7566. So for the past, 10 days now, if you've been calling the sports byline number, time to call this one back to the normal number, 844-411-5411. And back taking text messages again, so send those to me here. A lot of stuff going on. The Superstar Shakeup, going back a couple of days in news. I think Mike has talked about all of this, but my thoughts, the SmackDown roster added Finn Bálor, Ember Moon, Bayley, Kairi Sane, Lars Sullivan, Buddy Murphy, Elias, Roman, Liv Morgan, Chad Gable, Apollo Crews, Mickie James, Heavy Machinery. And the Raw roster, The Miz, The Viking Experience, Cedric Alexander, Andrade and Zelina, Rey Mysterio, The Usos, Naomi, Eric Young, Lacey Evans, AJ Styles, Ricochet, Aleister Black, EC3, and yes, Nikki Cross is going to Raw. She was left out of the shakeup, but that's where she's going. And the Intercontinental Championship went to SmackDown, so yes, the U.S. title is going to Raw. Samoa Joe will be debuting on Raw Monday. At least that is the plan as of right now. Obviously, the big notes, SmackDown, it's got some guys and some women. I wouldn't exactly say it's the number one A brand right now. I certainly like SmackDown more than Raw. Can't sit here and say it's the A brand. I mean, they're two brands right now. I expect that more things will be shaken up come September or so before they move to Fox. But do think it's interesting Lars Sullivan is on SmackDown. If he were on Raw, I think there would be a more difficult climb to the top. I think it's going to be an easier climb on the SmackDown brand. I see him being a potential SmackDown main eventer by summertime, and that is a new name there, so Lars Sullivan on SmackDown. Liv Morgan split up from the Riot Squad. They were very, very close friends. They did all sorts of things together. I'm sure she wasn't. In fact, I know initially she wasn't happy about that, but she's going to have new people to hang out with on the SmackDown brand. But that is a group that got split up right there, which probably, if they would have had their way, wouldn't have gotten split up. Kairi Sane, now on the SmackDown brand with Asuka. And a lot of things that I could say about that, but one of them is when Asuka lost the SmackDown title to Charlotte and everybody freaked out and they said that she should quit and all of the other crazy things that she said, which really is kind of what Sasha has done, and it has not worked out well for Sasha. It is probably not going to work out well for her in the long term. Asuka didn't complain about it. She didn't make a big deal out of it on social media. She just went home to her family and went back to work, and now she's one half of what is already the best tag team on either brand. So things work out. Buddy Murphy is now apparently over 205 pounds. I guess he can stop dieting. So that's an addition there to the SmackDown roster. Obviously, Raw got Cedric Alexander. So I don't really know what's going on with 205 Live. It seems like now that's a step between NXT and the main roster if you're smaller. But obviously, if you're under 205, you're not only going to be on that show. Lacey Evans going to be feuding with Becky Lynch, which should be something else. And I guess those are all of my thoughts for the moment. I guess more as we get going. And yes, I ranted about the War Raiders turning into the Viking Experience a couple of days ago. I'll spare you that at the moment. Maybe I'll be feeling it a little bit later on. Let's go to the phones. You're on the air. What is going on? Hello, caller. Going once.
Oh, sorry. Hey, Brian. That's Nick. I'm from Vermont. How are you doing today?
What's happening?
Two things. One, I wanted to get your thoughts on the Viceland documentaries. And number two, I was listening to the Reset Retro Nitro show, and I actually did the digging for you. I can confirm Vince Russo did come out to Black Sabbath's Iron Man on the broadcast, and Vinny was correct with Eric Bischoff coming out to AC/DC, but that was on Raw the night he debuted and hugged Vince.
Well, there you go. Thank you very much for the research. So, the Viceland documentaries, I have still only seen two of them. I haven't seen the Montreal Screwjob one yet. I saw the Randy Savage one, and I saw what's the other one that I saw? Gino Hernandez. So I saw both of those, and I thought the Gino Hernandez one was awesome. I think everyone's going to love that one. The Randy Savage one, I thought was fine. To me, I felt if you know anything about the story of Randy Savage and Elizabeth, you've pretty much, there's nothing really new in that particular documentary. The Gino Hernandez one, there's a lot new. There's stuff that, it's when it's over, you will feel like you know how Gino Hernandez died, what happened. And that's something that people have been talking about for decades now. So I really did like that one. I've not seen the Montreal Screwjob one yet. I'll try to watch some more of these over the weekend. I know that Dave thought it was fine. I guess he expected to hate it more because people told him he would hate it. And I guess maybe because they told him he would hate it, he watched it and he didn't hate it as much as he thought he was going to hate it. There was the revelation. I guess it wasn't really a revelation. They promised that you would find out who came up with the idea for the Montreal Screwjob. A lot of people have claimed it over the years. Vince Russo has claimed it was his idea. I guess Shawn Michaels has claimed it was his idea. And in the documentary, both Jim Cornette and Vince Russo claimed it was their idea. And I believe, and this is not because of anything that I think about Vince Russo, but I believe, based on what I've heard over the years, that in fact it was Jim Cornette that came up with the idea. And that's it. So, I don't know. They both claimed it. You can believe whatever you want. But from what I've been told, really dating back years now, Cornette was the guy that came up with that idea. So, that's my thoughts on those. Let's go to the phones. You're on the air. What's going on?
Well, hello, Brian. How you doing today?
Hey, look who's here.
Well, this is a day out. This is a state holiday for me, man. So this is the only time I can call you.
Good Friday's a state holiday for you?
Yeah, in the state of Tennessee, it is for me, for my new job.
How about that?
Yeah, I got a new job, man.
I didn't know that. What's your new job?
Well, I'm a probation parole officer. So like I was saying, right, yeah, I'm a licensed law enforcement licensed law enforcement officer for the state of Tennessee.
I got it.
It's good to hear from you, Bryan. I miss you, man.
I missed you too.
But here's my thing when I call for.
Okay, excellent.
This WWE shakeup was the most lackluster shakeup in the last three of them. Ever. I don't get it. If I could have like some big moment, like something, I won't say make it like silver. It was a dud. Even if I had relegation, why don't they just do something like relegation or something like that? It would be a little bit exciting. This one was just boring. It was nothing. It was, okay, that's it. It was, and that's it. The first one and the last one was duds. I didn't feel no excitement for it. I didn't see nothing that was going to like shake things up. It was, well, that is something lackluster. And did you watch and another thing I got to ask you, did you watch the Brody one yet?
I have not watched the Brody one yet.
I actually watched the Brody. They got that on YouTube.
Oh, that one's on YouTube for free, yeah.
Yeah, it was on YouTube for free on Viceman, the Viceman. So, no, I did not watch it on a bootleg. I watched it on the Viceman. It was actually interesting. I'm actually I thought it was going to hear some things, just like the Macho Man one. You heard some things that you heard from the past, but it was actually
there was new stuff.
Focused on. It was actually new stuff, folks.
All right, well, I have to head to a break. I want to thank you so much for the call. We got to get going here today. Back in a moment, Observer Live. Oh, man, one thing I miss being in Hawaii, that ice train music. All right, so a couple of notes here. First off, things are back to normal now for the time being, and that will change next Friday, however, as Friday I will be gone. Where will I be? I will be wrestling for All Pro Wrestling down in California. APW presenting Union Landing. I will be facing Jungle Boy. The match is finally taking place. Jungle Boy is back. I will not only be wrestling Jungle Boy, I will be challenging for his APW Juniors title. I've been profusely dieting to make sure that I get under the 205-pound weight limit. It'll be myself versus Jungle Boy Saturday, April 27th at the James Logan High School, 1800 H Street, Union City, California. $20 ringside, $15 general admission. It is a fundraiser for the Ballet Folklorico group. Once again, that is coming up on April 27th. And you know what? Saturday. I will be here next Friday. I screwed up my whole plug. This match is taking place on Saturday. And I should have known that because it's going head-to-head with Bellator. And as a result, I think Dave Meltzer is going to Bellator instead of coming to All Pro Wrestling to watch history as I defeat the Jungle Boy for the APW Juniors title. Saturday, April 27th. Once again, Saturday, April 27th, James Logan High School. If you want to go to James Logan High School on Friday, you're welcome to do that as well. There just won't be any wrestling. You'll have to stick around an extra day, but I will be there to face off and to defeat the Jungle Boy. I do have intense training to do, however, as I've spent a week in Hawaii doing a lot of just hanging out, but my intense training starts today, so want to mention that. Also, the Lance Storm show will be taking place today, Figure 4 Daily, up at WrestlingObserver.com, and also available on video.f4wonline.com. And starting today, it will not be our good friend G-Raff portraying Lance Storm, but in fact, Lance Storm will be portraying Lance Storm, as it will be his very first show on video. He has been set up, as has Filthy Tom Lawler, both of them available on video at video.f4wonline.com. So make sure you check those out. Lots of exciting stuff coming up, and I guess I won't be taking a day off on Friday next week. I will be here as always. Let's go to the phones. You're on the air. What's going on?
Hey, Brian, it's Tony from Philadelphia. What's up?
Yes, Tony.
Hey, so you're going to be wrestling at James Logan High School?
Yes, I am.
Just try not to get mistaken for a student, all right?
Oh, how dare you. Well, Jungle Boy is a student, so what's the big deal?
That is true. Hey, just want to get in contact. When are you going to be wrestling on the East Coast so I can come see you out here in Philadelphia, New York, that kind of area?
I was just in New York on WrestleMania weekend.
I know you were. I was sending you texts and emails, and you got back to me once, but I never got back to you again, brother.
I'm sorry. Maybe did you send me this text message line?
No, I DM'd you on Twitter, and you said we talked in an email, and I sent one back to you.
Oh man,
I'm not the guy that texted you during the Brian Vitti show asking for direction. No, you're fine. You look like you had a good time. So
I did.
I wanted to talk in general about that WrestleMania weekend and how good of a time I had. I was telling Mike about it. I went to Ring of Honor in New Japan. I went to Stardom. I went to MLW, and I had so much fun at all of those shows, and it made me realize how disillusioned I am in the WWE product right now. I just feel like you're in a holding pattern where it's what happens next, and I don't know if you or anyone else feels this way, but I truly feel like this was one of the weakest Road to WrestleManias I've ever watched as a fan. It just felt like besides Kofi and Becky, there was nothing going on. Everything was thrown together. And with all the Vince McMahon changes, like the Ali name, the Almas name, the Viking Experience name, I just feel like I'm so disillusioned and uncaring in the product that I'm wasting my time when I could be watching so many other great things out there. And I know that there's a lot of people who say and feel the same way, and they're like, I'm never watching again. I'm canceling my subscription. And there's other people go, well, see you next week, and they're watching next week. But I truly don't feel that way. I feel like if I stop, I just might stop out of boredom and disinterest.
Well, my friend, I want to thank you very much for the call. Let me tell you something about you and everybody else that's feeling this way. I'm sure Mike read these, but Raw, Superstar Shakeup episode, 2.67 million viewers. 2.76 million, 2.69, 2.55. Those were the numbers. Year-to-year drop, 26%. That's the year-to-year drop. SmackDown, 2.219 million viewers. Year-to-year, 20% down year-to-year. Do you realize how staggering these drops are? These are massive percentage drops. You're not the only one that feels this way. There are a lot of people that just aren't watching the show anymore. And think about the build-up to WrestleMania. I mean, let's just put it this way. There were a lot of things about the build-up to WrestleMania that were kind of lame. They barely had a card a month out. We knew, like, the top matches, but, like, they're throwing matches together. We didn't have a Raw. We didn't even have the Raw Tag Team Championship match until after the go-home edition of Raw and SmackDown. They announced that match on social media, for crying out loud. The Raw Tag Team titles. There were way too many matches that didn't need to be on the show. Obviously, the show was way too long. But as far as the build goes, I mean, it's not like, there have been times, January, February, where we pretty much know the entire top of the WrestleMania card. I mean, we barely knew anything here. And the stuff that they did with Becky and Ronda and Charlotte was way too convoluted. In January, I wrote out a very, very simple storyline. If they were going to have Charlotte in the match, and actually, if they were going to have Becky in the match, because the match originally was Ronda versus Charlotte at WrestleMania. But if it was going to be a three-way, I had a very, very simple way to get there where everything would have made sense. And they did none of that. They made it so complicated. They did so many things just to do things. And at the end of the day, I will say, I'm never going to forget this road to WrestleMania because of Becky, Ronda, and Charlotte. But as far as the rest of the show, it was a letdown. And yes, if you look at the Superstar Shakeup, I mean, this is going to be like a weird comparison, but I'm going to make it. I've got a 3-year-old now. She's 3. And she's just now, like, she's figured things out. I'll just put it this way. The last time we went to Hawaii was a year ago November. So about 15 months ago. So a year ago November, she couldn't say anything. She couldn't say a single word. Now she won't shut up. And she's fluent, I guess. I don't know what the word would be, but She can speak. She can talk. We have fun. She's a little person. So anyway, point of this is, when I want to get her excited about something, like, for example, we were at Cannon Beach, and she had this little ballerina doll that she really wanted. And we got it for her, and she was so happy. And we were going around town, and at some point during the course of the day, it disappeared. And we went all over town trying to find it, and we couldn't find it. So I went home, and I have no idea how I found the same doll on Amazon, okay? But I found it, and I ordered it, and it had to come from, like, England or something. It was coming from way far away. It wasn't like you can get it the next day. It was going to be, they said it'd be 2 weeks or whatever. So she's a big fan of Daniel Tiger, so I explained to her that me and Grandpa, because Grandpa had been traveling her when the doll disappeared, I said, we talked to Mr. McFeely, and he's got something very special that he's going to bring for you in the mailbox here in a couple of weeks. She got very excited. I didn't tell her what it was. She got very excited. And so, like, every day I would remind her, Daddy and Grandpa Bob, we talked to Mr. McFeely. He's got something very special that's on the way for you. And by the time this thing showed up, she was so excited. And we got it out of the box, and we brought it in, and she's jumping up and down, and we unwrap it, and it's the same one that she'd lost, and she was over the moon with happiness. But the point was, I spent 2 weeks building this thing up for this payoff here. And I did this because when I was younger, I remember, I mean, this is not the whole reason, but this is just a wrestling tie-in. I remember how when I was little, WWE, and not little, I'm talking my teenage years as well, but the point is, WWE used to build things up big. And they used to get you so excited for these things. And obviously, sometimes there would be flops, like the Gobbledygooker was a huge flop. But you want to know why the Gobbledygooker was a huge flop? Because they built it up so big, and then the payoff sucked. So, the point of this is, I always bring up the Royal Rumble. They used to have the Royal Rumble, the event center, and Sean Mooney would be there, and he'd say, we're going to go to the Matador, and El Matador would talk about how he's going to win the Royal Rumble. We're going to go to the Earthquake. Earthquake would talk, we're like a month out, they're talking about how they're going to win the Royal Rumble. Later, they'd have the tumbler, and guys would pick out the ball. Oh my God, I can't believe what I got, but you didn't know. They built it up so big, and the winner of this Royal Rumble, they're going to go on to the main event of WrestleMania. It was a big deal. This was how they used to build things up. Now, the whole point of this rant, the Superstar Shakeup is coming. They didn't even do it like they used to do it, where there'd be a general manager on Raw and SmackDown, and somebody would get a pick, and then maybe this person would win a match, and they'd get an extra pick, and they'd play up these picks so big, and the Titantron would have the scrolling thing with all of the different superstars, and it would stop on somebody, and it would stop on Samoa Joe, and the fans would go, oh my God, I can't believe Samoa Joe's coming. This was the lamest shakeup. They had a show, guys came out, women came out, they had matches, we had one graphic at the end of the night to show us who jumped ship. It was such a nothing draft. Coming right after WrestleMania. How are people supposed to get excited about this? Back in a moment, Observer Live. Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Mike Sempervive not here today. He'll be back, I guess, actually on Sunday. I think we're here Sunday. It's Easter. I'll let everyone know as soon as I know. Anyway, here's the emails, text messages. If you want to text us here today, 844-411-5411 is the phone number. Text messages, 425-780-7566. Let's see what's on everyone's mind. Hamish here. Brian, completely agree with you on how Becky stayed patient, found her way out of obscurity, and became a household name and a main event superstar. Even though I don't blame Sasha at all for her frustration, it has been built up for years rather than just being a heat of the moment. This is a reference to a Figure 4 Daily that I did a couple of days ago, talking about Sasha and this situation. This person adds, if this story of Sasha wanting to quit are true, the company acquiescing to her temper tantrum sets a terrible precedent, doesn't it? There's so much stuff to talk about involving... Hey. So, Sasha is upset, and I guess the story is that they thought they were going to have a long run as the women's tag team champions. They thought, and by the way, they should have thought that they were going to be defending the titles on Raw, SmackDown, and NXT, because they had promos written for them where they talked about defending the titles on Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. So I can understand being frustrated when they find out that not only are they losing the belts at WrestleMania, but they're being split up in the Superstar Shakeup. Now, there's a lot of people that aren't happy in WWE. I mean, I'm not just saying that. Everybody knows. Luke Harper has asked for his release, and Dean Ambrose is having his last match on Sunday, and the Good Brothers appear to be on their way out. They've completely vanished. They announced that they weren't going to be, or they didn't announce, they just weren't going to re-sign their deals. And so that's it. They're apparently being... they're just going to vanish until their contracts are up, and then they're going to go where they're going to go. And there are others as well that have just not made a big deal out of it. There are also all of the people that were ranting about Asuka, how badly she was treated, how unfair it was for her to lose the SmackDown women's title to Charlotte, how she should quit, how she should go back to Japan, or whatever, and I will flat out say, whatever crazy things people were saying after what happened with Asuka. This is my thought on the situation, okay? If you're not happy in WWE and you want to, behind the scenes, discuss with them the possibility of leaving and going elsewhere, then go for it. That's what Luke Harper did. Luke Harper spoke to them, and then I guess he went online and told everybody what he was doing, but he didn't complain about it. And he put over WWE very hard, talked about what a wonderful period of his life it had been for him. He didn't go on there and cry about it. And the thing with this company is, it is a vindictive company. It can be a very vindictive company. And if you go about this the wrong way, I mean, they're not necessarily going to let anybody out of their contract. And they will ice you, or they will put you in bad situations. The Revival is another example. I saw this coming back in January. The Revival were complaining they wanted to get out, and they ended up getting the tag team titles, I guess is maybe an impetus to try to convince them to stay. And then they started that feud with Zack Ryder, and I knew that the losing streak was going to end, and they were going to beat the Revival and win the tag team titles. It took a lot longer than I expected, but it happened. And the Sasha deal, I mean, yes, she's frustrated. But like I said the other day on Observer Radio, or on Figure 4 Daily, you know who else was frustrated with where they were? Becky Lynch. She was on the pre-show of WrestleMania last year. I mean, Sasha and Bayley, yes, it sucks that they lost the titles to the Iconics, especially the Iconics of all people. I mean, the belts are joke belts now. But the point is, they were the first ever WWE Women's Tag Team Champions of this era. That's what they got. They got those belts. They didn't lose in the tournament. They didn't get beat in the finals. They won. They won the belts, and they were the champions. They were on the main card of WrestleMania. Last year, at this time, Becky Lynch was on the pre-show. Becky Lynch didn't complain about it. She didn't throw a tantrum. She didn't loudly complain in the locker room about it. She went on her way, and she got over, and she connected with the fans, and a year later, she was in the main event of WrestleMania. Like I said earlier, Asuka didn't complain and cry. Asuka's another example. Everybody's crying that Asuka lost the belt to Charlotte. Asuka won a three-way with Charlotte and Becky and won the championship in December. Now, granted, she did disappear for a while after the Royal Rumble, probably because they figured out that what they'd done, having her beat Becky clean in the middle via submission, was stupid. She did disappear for a while, but she was working house shows. She was winning on house shows. She had a run from December through the end of March as the SmackDown Women's SmackDown Women's Champion. That's what she had. and she lost it, and she didn't complain about it. She didn't cry about it. She just kept going to work, and the next thing you know, she's in a tag team with Kairi Sane, which, as I noted, is already the best tag team on the entire Raw or SmackDown roster, and they're probably going to end up with these SmackDown Women's Tag Team titles at some point. So, the thing with WWE is Vince, and he gets hot and cold on things. I mean, the Bludgeon Brothers got a gigantic push with Luke Harper until Rowan got hurt, and then Luke Harper went in for surgery, and then out of sight, out of mind, I guess. And Harper came back first. He ended up put with Daniel Bryan, and they had nothing. Or I'm sorry, Rowan came back first, got put with Daniel Bryan. They had nothing for Harper, and so he just decided they got nothing for me. There's things I still want to do in this business. I'm still young enough to do them. I'm going to ask them if I can get out. So that's what happened. And I think that Sasha would have been best served going to work and doing her job and trying to connect with the people. And obviously she has a connection with a lot of people, but there are also a lot of people she doesn't have a connection with. Because for whatever reason, whether it's her delivery or how she, whatever it is, I mean, she comes off as a heel to a lot of people when she's supposed to be a babyface. So I don't know if that's something that she could work on, but at the end of the day, if she would have just not complained and gone back to work and got drafted and did what she could, the time would come where Vince would give her another push again. It's just the way things go in WWE. So I don't think that this was the best way to go about doing it. And based on the fact that Becky is now on SmackDown, and I don't know what Sasha's doing, it doesn't look like this was the best thing for her. But I guess we shall see. Let's go to the phones. You're on the air. What's going on? There we go. You're on the air. What's going on?
This is Jim from Virginia. How you doing today, Brian?
What's up, Jim?
You were talking about Sasha Banks. I could not agree with you more. All this crying and stirring up things on her Twitter account, that's not doing her any good. I mean, you know, if she wants to leave, I mean, she needs to go and talk with the WWE or find out what's going on. But like I said, they're not going to let her out of her contract a day early. So I just think, you know, she needs to, if she talk about other places to go, ROH and Shimmer and Shine and Stardom, they're not going to pay her any way the kind of money that WWE's paying her. So I think she needs to just do her job. I agree wholeheartedly with what you said.
I mean, here's the other thing. I want to thank you very much for the call, Jim. I don't want to pile on Sasha here, but this is the reality of the situation. Does anybody not know, like, what you're in for when you sign with WWE? Is this a mystery to anybody? Is this a mystery that they're going to have you read nonsensical dialogue, and they're going to put you in storylines that are going to change on a week-to-week basis, and sometimes they're going to push you, sometimes you're going to get a title out of nowhere. The first time that Daniel Bryan won the World Heavyweight title, he wasn't even supposed to win he wasn't even supposed to be in town that day. Like, somebody came up with an idea the day of the pay-per-view, and he ended up getting flown into town, and he won the title. It was just that was just what they decided at the time. And he ended up losing it in 8 seconds to Sheamus, and it was an idea they had. And he could have cried about it, but what happened was it backfired. The fans got behind him, and he went with it. I mean, there's a million examples. There's a million examples of this. I mean, the Superstar Shakeup, nobody was expecting that couples would be broken up or that teams would be broken up. They flat out said on commentary there's teams that are going to be broken up. This is what's going to happen in WWE. If you don't want to deal with this, then you shouldn't sign with WWE. Right? This person says, this is now at the point where I think if Sasha stays, she's going to have to go home heat. I know I don't want to see her again. Well, I don't know about the fans, but I mean, when you do something like this, forget the fans. I mean, what are they going to do with you? What are they going to do with you? Let's think about this for a second. They created a new set of tag team championships for the women that are going to go brand to brand, okay? The team they chose to put those titles on were Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch. And granted, everything in WWE, it's just a story, okay? But to Sasha, clearly these belts meant a lot to her. And I'm sure to Bayley as well. All right, so they get these belts. They're the first ever women's tag team champions of this era. Whatever you want to call it. They're obviously not the first WWE women's tag team champions, but of this era they are, okay? So, imagine you're WWE. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. These women have been demanding a title, and you finally give them the title, and the two that you choose are Becky and Sasha, and you give them the belts, and then you decide that you want to do something with the Iconics, and you give them a match on the main card of WrestleMania, and you decide that you're going to take the titles off them, and Sasha decides she's going to go home because of that. Are you ever going to put a title on Sasha again? Are you ever going to make her the women's champion again if you know that her losing this belt is going to result in her deciding that she wants to go home? What are you going to do with Sasha from this point forward if you're WWE? Forget the answer as a fan. Like, if you're a huge Sasha Banks fan, I know what you're thinking. Of course I'd put the title. Forget that. Imagine you're WWE. You gave them the women's tag team titles first, and then you took them off of them, and one of them decided to go home. What are you going to do with her again? You going to make her champion? You going to give her a big push? What are you going to do? You're probably not going to do anything with her until her contract expires, is the answer. I mean, yeah, sometimes, the Usos, they hadn't re-signed, and so WWE gave them the championships, they ended up re-signing. Sometimes you can change people's minds. But guess what? They didn't change Dean Ambrose's mind. So, we'll see what happens. This person says, WWE is full of it. They are slimy frauds, hiding behind public relations, stunts, and anti-bullying campaigns when they are worse than JBL is purported to be. They are vindictive bullies, but also have skin thinner than Kurt Hawkins' win streak. That's Swift from Brooklyn. Back in a moment. Observer Live. Got a note from a wrestler here who requests to remain anonymous. The talent are now the marks. They think they are actually winning titles. Very upset about this Sasha situation here. This person here says, what are you talking about, Bryan? Did you not forget the last 3 years? The question should be if Sasha can ever trust WWE to put the title on her again. The woman has never been given a single title reign over 2 weeks with 0 defenses. They made that her entire gimmick, how she's a loser. I'm completely behind her and wish more people would quit this company. The belts... Okay, you're welcome to think that if you want. But no one is really winning. Just as this person said, nobody's really winning a belt. Nobody said that she was a loser. They noted that she often lost the championship on the first defense, which was done as a way to set up them successfully defending the tag team titles. They didn't lose them on the first defense. That was why that promo was cut. This person here says, with Ollie, Buddy Murphy, and Cedric all moving up to the main roster, do you think the writing is on the wall for the future of 205 Live? I have no idea what's going on. And especially with 205 Live taping before SmackDown, moving to Fox, I mean, the writing could be on the wall. I don't know. I mean, they need another brand. There's too much talent on the main roster. People get lost in the shuffle. And so it's good to have another brand where guys can go do things. It's a death brand. I mean, they basically announced Cedric coming to the main roster as if nobody had any idea who Cedric Alexander was, which tells you even they know that not many people are watching 205 Live. We're out of time, everybody. That went by quick. We're here every day, Monday through Friday, noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, Sundays, 3 Pacific, 6 Eastern. I'll be back later on today with Lance Storm, a video show with Lance, everybody. You can check that out, and we'll talk all of the news and more. And that is it, everybody. We'll talk to you next time, Wrestling Observer Live.